Hey guys, so today we're doing a video on the Baofeng DM1701 with Opengd77 firmware. I've got my pros and cons list here, and we're just going to go over some of the basic features of this radio. So this radio is a entry-level DMR radio made by the Baofeng company, and I got this one on AliExpress with the Opengd77 firmware installed on it for $50. And now that is a very low entry point into this hobby and into this realm of the hobby sort of DMR, which is kind of a niche. The basic specs of the radio is it's 2 meter and 70 centimeter, but it can also do 220. I don't know if it's rated for that, but it does do it. I can get into repeaters. I don't sound as good on it, and I don't think it puts out the full 5 watts, but it's pretty good on 220. Let's get right into the pros. So the pros, very cheap entry to DMR. If you're looking to get into DMR, get one of these. You won't regret it. Then start saving up for a nicer one, but this is a great entry point. It's got a hotspot mode, so if you do get this radio and then you end up getting a nicer radio, no problem. You can just turn this one into a Blue DV hotspot with your either your Pi Star, or you can use your computer, and then you got yourself a hotspot to use with your new radio. It's got the full front panel programming. Everything that I've done in this radio so far has been on the front panel. So I've got channel names, I've got DMR repeaters, and I've got simplex channels along with DMR simplex. So you do not need to get a programming cable. Now, there is some features that you won't be able to get if you don't have one, like satellite mode doesn't work, and there's one other thing. You can't create zones. So if you need to create zones and you need the satellite mode, you're going to want the programming software. Also, APRS is a little flaky without it. Some other nice thing is it sounds absolutely great. You got full mic control, gain on DMR and FM, and I just got good signal reports all around, analog and DMR. Another pro, the battery lasts a really long time, and I've had it going for a week just listening and the occasional transmission on the repeater. Another thing is it is really tough. It survived a drop. I dropped it off the deck. It was sitting on the ledge listening, and it fell off the deck and hit the concrete below it, and it's still here. It's got one little scratch in the screen, but yeah, it still works. You can kind of see it there. And then it's very intuitive. The Opengd77, it pretty much, once you learn the basic controls for it, it pretty much is intuitive to the whole thing. Like, they don't change much. It's got a really loud speaker in it. The antenna that comes with it is pretty good for the frequencies that it says it is. And the screen is very impressive. It's very bright, and it hardly gets washed out by the sun, so you can see it in daylight. Especially, I found night mode is better for that. Some other pros are it does have your standard Kenwood connector on the side here, so you can connect all your old accessories from your other Baofengs. It's not as big as some of the other DMR radios, so there's my hand for scale. So this one's a nice one that I can wear on my belt whether I'm at school or walking around town or anything. Yeah, and go along with the belt, it's got a really nice belt clip. Hardly even flimsy like all the other Baofeng ones are. And so that's some of my basic pros of this radio. All right, now we get into the fun part. These are the cons. Now, there's not a lot of them, but there's some very real players. The first one is the spectral purity. I have had 2 of these radios, and the first one that I had was not spectrally pure. It had a second harmonic of about minus 12 dB, so that does not comply with FCC's regulations. I'm pretty sure those are minus 18 dB for your spurs. The wattage difference, so if you have it set to 5 watts, it'll put out 5 watts because that's high power, that's easy. But if you take it down to 3 watts, you might get 2 watts or, 3.5, so it's not always perfect on that note, and that's not even really a con, but it's just kind of something I noted. The next thing is there's no GPS. And now this is a big thing, because this firmware supports a satellite mode, an APRS mode, and DMR talk around. Now, you can program in, so your satellite mode, you can program in your location, but then you got to change it and type in your coordinates every time you want to use a different satellite or every time you move. And then for APRS, you can't like track yourself because it's just one location. You'd have to change it every time you move. And then the thing with like DMR is you won't get all the like the distance to the repeater and that stuff because it doesn't have GPS. So that's a big con, and that's something I'd look for if you were getting into a DMR radio, is one with GPS. The next thing is sort of a quality control issue. So there's a few things that I found with quality control that I didn't really like. The first one is this. I don't know if you can hear that, but this battery wiggles ever so slightly. Now, it does not feel like it just locks in. I don't know if you can hear it, but it wiggles in there and it gets really annoying. It shouldn't seem like it does, but it does. The next thing is, if you turn the knobs on, let me get some light. If you turn the knobs so that both of their little indents are pointing at each other, I don't know how I control this here, they will basically hit and turn each other. So like if I have these two together, it just turned the volume knob. Now, that may not seem annoying again, but it does when you're listening to like a weather channel, and then all of a sudden your volume goes up. Another thing with quality control is the knobs. One of mine came loose, but that was simple. Pulled it off, tightened it up, and we're good. The screen. Now, I don't know if I'll be able to show this, but my screen is offset. So I'm holding this straight with the camera right now, and you cannot see the top probably millimeter of the screen. Like, another thing that seems like it wouldn't be annoying, but it is. You have to kind of tilt the radio to see everything all the way up. The next thing is not all antennas will work with this radio. I found that with the volume knob, it's very close to the antenna mount. So if I get a big chungus antenna on there, like the Bree Tactical ones, for sure will not work, because this knob gets turned around here, and it's got this little part that's longer than the other ones right on the top there, and it'll hit the bottom of the antenna, and you can't turn it around. Now that's also very annoying, because you won't be able to change your channels. And then the last thing is a simple thing, but it kind of gets annoying, is the screen. It's a very good screen, but sometimes in like direct light or stuff, it'll wash out, and I get that. It's a cheap radio, it's a cheap screen. But yeah, another con is there's no USB-C charging. Any radio nowadays needs USB-C charging. Any radio that comes out in the end of 2024 and later needs USB-C charging. It's one of those things that you never knew you needed it until you had it, and it's very handy. This radio does not have that. I'm waiting for you monitors to make a battery, like an extended one for your UV5R with a USB-C port. So get on that if you're into that stuff. Some of the other cons that I could think of were the user selectable or programmable keys on the sides don't line up with what you'd think. So this is actually SK1 and that's SK2, and this is orange is how it's identified in the software. Now, when I got this radio, it said SK2 plus green will save your stuff. Well, okay, 1, 2. Okay, I'll hold you and press the green button. Why ain't it saving? Well, it actually is because that's SK2. Now, that may seem logical because 1, 2, but you'd think this was also user programmable because it doesn't do anything otherwise. So that's another con that I saw, and I eventually resolved it by looking at the Opengd DM1701 forum. So just kind of a little bug. But yeah, another thing that goes along with that is if you change a setting on the radio, it will not save. If it has to do with your code plug, so channel name, frequency, tones, DMR, talk groups, DMR, year ID, any of that, it will not save unless you hold the SK2 and green button to save it to your memory. And that'll modify your code plug and all that. But yeah, so there's a few more in there, such as like Radiodity and Baofeng directly don't necessarily confirm that you'll be able to refund this radio or claim the Baofeng warranty after you've put the OpenGD77 firmware on it, because it could have caused issues that their firmware wouldn't have. But yeah, other than that, I say overall this radio is a great beginner DMR radio for someone like me who can't afford an elaborate DMR setup. And it's got me into the DMR realm of the hobby, and I really enjoyed having it. So if you're looking to get into DMR, pick up a Baofeng DM1701. Make sure it has OpenGD77 though. Excuse me, I got a cough here. Because the OpenGD77 is worlds better than the original firmware. So yeah, get into DMR, pick one of these up. You won't be disappointed when eventually, if you want to get a better radio, you can just use this as a hotspot, and it can sit on your desk its whole life. So with that, thanks for watching. Go pick you one of these up. They're fun. They're fun and intuitive to play around with. So yeah, go pick one of these up, have a little bit of fun with it, and then use it.